Okay, I'm back in 127.0.0.1, which is home. So we have to build the list of devices. And this will be like a list underneath the list of nodes where we can select the device connected to the network. And then here we would have so on the right, I don't know if the pointer was visible, but basically on the bottom right part we would have the detail. So it's just a table of imager. Let's write a couple of line of code. This one is called third cell, like that, and then fourth cell. Here we say maybe H2. Let's call it device list of devices. Nice. Should we add an icon like computer? It's a keyboard. And then device details. Okay, let's look. We can see that, but it's a little bit messed up. I suppose we need to fix this, like the areas a little bit. Probably the names, I think they're not connected because we call this first cell and so on. So, oh yeah, now I get it. So first cell is from here, first second, but also probably this one is not correct. So let's just try. Third cell. Do we have a third? No, I think we it's another syntax, or actually third, and then fourth. Let's set them here as well. This name, they make no sense really at the moment. First, second, third, fourth. It's better in the sense that they are in a grid, although we have to say that the template shouldn't be like that. It should be 2 columns up and then 2 columns down. Well, I think I just learned a new thing, a new syntax. If it works, it's just amazing how the CSS works these days. So we have this, then we say template rows auto, but then let's see what happens. The grid template areas can be described as that. So are you serious? The position of the text is gonna match the template? I would be amazed. Yes, it does. CSS for the win. Guys, we don't need Bootstrap or whatever you're using. It's so simple, man. Display grid, and then we can do so much. It used to be insanely hard to do this stuff just a few years ago. So use just CSS. I admit I'm not super familiar with every evolution of the syntax of CSS, but just not hard to pick it up and check with Google and ChatGPT. So good, we have a fully functional template with 4 areas, and then it will become 1. I don't like these. It's probably because of the size. It's not responsive, this part. That might be what we're gonna do next. So this thing, you see, I'm just gonna hack it. The width 100. They're gonna be responsive. Yes, kind of. But anyway, this step is done, and rather than tweaking the CSS more, let's make it work. Let's hook more data into the list of devices. Remember, we were talking about we have already the data described in the domain. We would need to add an additional part there in relation to the devices and what they contain and how a Wi-Fi can contain multiple devices. So yeah, let's do it. I just realized that we can try to tweak the node SVG container here. The height and width of the SVG, the ring, here it is hard-coded. So how about we just Dracarys, boom. You see, now let's bring it here as well, or I will enlarge it. It's kind of better. SVG, not entirely, but at least we removed the. I think that the problem is just we don't have 100 here. With 100. Yeah, a little bit better. I need to work on this a little bit. Because ideally this part of the widget would take kind of the half, 50%, let's say, or maybe even more. Okay, so there is a little bit of cleaning code to clean, which is this additional G. It looks like it's not harmful, but for the Occam razor principle, that we should make things as simple as possible. I see that it's working even if we remove it, so let's get rid of it. And also, initially I thought these are misplaced because this node is a little bit on the right too much, but in reality, it's the right position. So, for example, if we add more nodes inside the fake data, like this, set a bunch, refresh, we can see that they would be positioned in the correct position. This label goes a little bit out, but that's another story. Let's say let's forget it for now. And also let's go back to the three nodes. Yes. All right. Okay, let's create a data shape of these devices, which would look something like this. So what are we gonna do? You're guessing it. We go into the domain models, and let's say new file, Wi-Fi device.ts, support interface, Wi-Fi device, right? I just pasted the whole thing. We just need to grab one and do the same thing we did before. So I'm gonna say host name string IP a string. Mac, he knows. Vendor, he knows. Well, fantastic. So we have, let's compare to the Wi-Fi node. Let's put it side by side. The story here is that a Wi-Fi node can contain multiple devices. So I'm tempted to add it here in the domain level, like that. Devices will be an array of Wi-Fi devices. But yeah, I was thinking they might not be mandatory, of course. So let's set it as optional, like that. Good. So now the next thing to do is essentially to load the list of devices. This data fetching, wouldn't be done upfront in one single step. We want to load the list of devices just when we go over a node. Because in the real world, this operation could take some time and we don't want to request all the devices of a network in one go, because it could take 10, 30 seconds, 1 minute, I don't know. We are just simulating, but what we want to do is to create essentially another pieces of our system which will load the devices of a given network. So now we have all the tools and knowledge to structure this next thing, which would be another use case, right? And this would be called load Wi-Fi devices use case .ts. Cool. Let's grab the name. Let's use what we have as usual. Export class. We have an empty constructor. And then we have an async method which should execute something and return a list of Wi-Fi devices. Then he's complaining because we're not returning what we just said. Let's for now say return empty. Okay, same as before. We wrote the contract for now, so whoever is using this Wi-Fi devices use case knows we're promising, no pun intended, promising that we're returning a promise with a list of Wi-Fi devices. Cool. I like it. So where are we going to use this thing? Well, we could be tempted to use it directly into the list of devices. Okay, as we have already a structure of the context for the node, how about doing things a little bit more properly, right? So we can choose. We can have an instant gratification and put it in there to see something in the UI already, and then refactor later. It shouldn't be bad. It's up to your style. Or if you're comfortable already with the structure, you can boom, go with the context and use it. Maybe let's take it gradually. Let's take it easy. Okay, so let's return this array, just static data, and let's take it easy. I don't like this because I'm lazy. I don't want to do it manually, so bear with me one sec. So I'll show you guys what I'm doing. Let's use ChatGPT and say, here's the data. Let's convert it to this data type. Why should we do this sort of thing manually? It doesn't make sense. If it works. You see, boom. Should be alrighty. Just copy and paste this stuff. It's just formatted right. We had to remove the quotes. Okay, we should have data. Let's use it. Let's go into the components called, do we have a component? List of devices, I don't think we have, so we have to create it. In the dashboard, we have the title, but we don't have the components yet. So no worries, new file. Let's go to list, devices list. Might be more appropriate. Nice. And then the other one would be device detail. Okay. Perfect. So we're gonna edit one here. Device list. And device detail. He's not getting that thing. I will take this thing later. Components. Nice. Cool. So we can see device list up there, device details, and now we can start doing our magic. Device list, right? Here we need to pull the data from the use case, which is this. Now let's make a super dirty thing just to make it work. How about const data? We have to instantiate. He doesn't know what it is, of course. Now you know. And then console log it. Just a quick check. Checking the console. It's a promise, man. We need to await it. Right? But this, we can't do it like that because the way should be in a sync method. So we should use again that trick. Use effect, right? Remember. Well, he did it. I don't know how, but this is the auto completion of Copilot code. So use effect, remember, plus this empty array, it means executed when the page loads. And then he's doing that as a promise. A little bit different of when we did the first time, but it's good. the then here data. And in fact, we have it. Can you guys see it? It's here. So we have the static data. Good. This is a good point. Now let's start refactoring and tidy up this code, put the things into the context, and then print the list here. Let's call it like devices context, something like that in here. Devices context .tsx. And then we take inspiration from what we did already. We have to export devices context, yes, like that. With Wi-Fi devices, I like it. Select the device, yes, this is a fair point. Same as select a node, at a certain point we need to select the devices. So, and yes, select the devices as well, of course. Here we can import the create context from React. Let's put it here. And now we have to define the provider, of course. Let's see if you understand what we want to do. You want to create an interface. Let's say let's do manually. All this stuff, it's a little bit annoying. So let's do it as a human. Any. Then we create the provider. Yep, my God, look at that. Export comms device provider. This looks quite alright though. It's like a drag. For now, it's insanely correct. OMG. Selected device. The use effects. We're gonna load it. Call the load device. Yes. Guys, it's quite alright. The only thing here is we need to tweak is this, of course, what we are passing. Maybe let's for now give React fcany just for now, so that he doesn't complain about what we're passing. I'm still shocked about the amount of code that he generated. Okay, let's use it. Let's use this provider. We have to do it in the same way we did here. Now the conundrum, the problem is, where do we put it in the hierarchy? Should this be above? Should this be wrapping everything, or it should be in between nodes and dashboard? Well, I think you know the answer. It should be here, because to have a list of device, first we need to have a Wi-Fi selected, a node, not the other way around. So we put it here, and then we can use the context pulling from the other, so we can have the device context pulling from the nodes provided to get the actual Wi-Fi node. So now let's say device provider, and boom, he knows again that we want to use this strategy. Yes, he knows, but the problem is that we don't really have it a maker as of now. So what we can do for the moment, well, let's close it. Just one step at a time. We would have the device provider, but here we would need to create it. What do you say, guys? Should we go for it and do the maker? Yes, let's do it. It's not that complicated. In the factories, I'm gonna say new file, make Wi-Fi devices use case .ts, and then same of these, export const, this function, load Wi-Fi devices, yes. Yep, he is right. Shouldn't be surprised anymore. Let's give me an instance of the use case. Perfect. Here, now we have it. Cool. I've imported everything. Let's clean a little bit the imports and tidy up. Let's say presentation context, presentation components dashboard, factories. I'm gonna fix it later. I'm gonna fix those areas later. But so here we created the structure, right? Devices and no providers. One, it's above the other. Let's quickly see if it's working or if we are importing the device provider correctly from here. Let's print some spaghetti this time. Yes, we get plenty of spaghetti twice, which is interesting. So we get this, and we could see if the devices are loaded already. At this point, we are wiring the same fake data for every call. So, but just for now, we can take a look. The way we could do it is printing the devices. This one, the Wi-Fi devices, right? Because here it's loaded and it's set into the local use state of the context. So how about we print it here? CG. And yes, we have it. There is an additional console log that's, so this stuff we don't need anymore, right? So that was the whole point. The refactor was to move this code out into there. So component Dracaris. Goodbye. Let's reload. Looks nicer. We have the device context is printing the data we need. And that's happening at slow time. Okay. So two things we need to fix. The first one is we don't want this data to be loaded up until we know that the user selected a node. So we need to create this kind of reactivity. And the second one, the easier part, is the device list component here needs to pull the device list from the context and then print the list. We could start from here, from printing the data so we can see something, and then we do the hardest part later. Okay, let's grab the data from the context, right? Use context of the way. So we are going to say const devices use selector. No, not that. We have to do same thing we did in the ring. So use context, this kind of syntax. Wi-Fi devices, Bluetooth devices. It's funny sometimes this AI. Use context, device context, and use context. Boom shakalaka, we should have it. But we are engineers, so should. It's not a good word. Let's console log it. Wi-Fi devices. Yes, we have it. So that's a good feeling to have some juicy data ready to be used. And here we go. He knows what we want to do again. Wi-Fi devices on map. Device size. Yeah, it looks fair. Just this part doesn't convince me. I don't know if we had a name for the device. Was that a name? Host name, IP. Let's go to host name. But now the interesting thing is that he doesn't know that it's an array of Wi-Fi devices. I'm a little bit surprised. Let me have a check. And yes, of course, those are my nodes. So I created a context and I just said that Wi-Fi device is an array. Obviously here we had to say that it's an array of a Wi-Fi device. Yes, I was, obviously this is create context and these are the values. So I didn't draw the interface to describe the context. Interface devices context type, and then we would have something like that, but of course this wouldn't be any. And here we can specify Wi-Fi device. Okay, and this one would be the selected Wi-Fi device or undefined. It's a little bit of typo. And then we can use this type here. Okay, we're good, I think. So long story short, this was to fix the typing here because I was expecting to find the auto-completion here, and before the fact that I didn't define what the heck was inside the context. When we pulled out something from the context, he was not aware of this data type. Anyway, now we know that we can say device. Let's add one of that question mark, and then let's call it host name. And boom, here we go. We had the magic list here. Let's enlarge it. Here we go. This is fantastic. So this was the easy part. Now hardest part is to trigger the loading of this data according to which node we selected, and probably we also have to tamper with the fake data a little bit and think about how to simulate that these are called. Okay, so this is the idea that I have. The thing is that the load Wi-Fi devices use case at the moment is always returning a static list of devices, which is this, and it doesn't have any parameter. The difference between loading the Wi-Fi nodes and the devices is that loading the Wi-Fi doesn't require any parameter, because in the end it would be like just give me the available Wi-Fi networks, but for this one, for the devices, obviously we need to target one specific Wi-Fi. So here we need a parameter essentially, which could be an identifier of the Wi-Fi, which I understand it to be the SSID, it's called. So how about we say SS Wi-Fi SSID, which is gonna be a string. And then here we would have, look at that, completing my comment, but I want to say this is a mocking the API call, which would send the SSID and return the devices. Here we can just simulate it with a switch case or if statement. Let's call it an if. Let's be brutal. If SSID equals to, is this the correct one? No, this is the name of the host name. Let's take a look here. Let's move it. The SSID data is in the other use case, of course. Let's pick up the first one, which is this. You guys see it? Yes. So area Wi-Fi SSID is this, then return that. Otherwise, let's add another one and split it. It's just fake data, you know. If we have the Vodafone one, my beloved neighbor, then let's return maybe the second half of those. Return these guys, otherwise return nothing. Cool.